In 2022, New Zealand passed a set of smoke-free laws that position the country to virtually eliminate tobacco addiction. The legislation relied on three core pillars: banning the sale of tobacco to anyone born after 2008, reducing the number of retail outlets by 96%. They argued that drastically cutting retail outlets and removing nicotine would fuel an uncontrollable black market for illicit tobacco. That leaves a critical question. Did the government genuinely sacrifice the long-term health of the nation for a legitimate law enforcement concern? Or is the black market excuse a smokescreen for a much more targeted corporate agenda? To be fair, the black market for tobacco in New Zealand is very real. Dairies have been caught selling illicit cigarettes over the counter. As reporters have documented, some stores offer packets for as cheap as $13, less than half the legally required excise tax. Associate Minister of Health Costello recently used this criminal activity to propose reviewing the excise tax structure. She argued that tweaking the tax is a necessary tool to undercut the illegal supply. The Ministry of Health explicitly advised the government that the original legislation would have reduced the black market, not expanded it. Denicotinization cuts off addiction at the source, mathematically shrinking the consumer demand criminals rely on. Experts warn that lowering legal taxes triggers an unwinnable bidding war with the black market that the government cannot mathematically win. The Ministry of Health, independent public health experts, and basic economics all reject the government's stated reasoning. If the black market excuse falls apart under scrutiny, the true motivation for repealing the smoke-free laws has to originate from someone else. In 2017, Philip Morris International produced a lobbying strategy document specifically targeting New Zealand. The leaked plan named two key entities it intended to pressure: the New Zealand First political party and the Taxpayers Union lobbying group. The direct connection is undeniable. Before she entered Parliament and became the Associate Minister of Health overseeing tobacco policy, Costello was the chair of that exact organization, the Taxpayers Union. The overlap goes straight to the executive level. A former chief of staff for New Zealand First is now external relations manager for Philip Morris. The party's former director of operations and research is now the tobacco giant's director of external affairs. This network materialized inside the government in December 2023, when a mysterious 5-page policy document appeared on Minister Costello's desk at the Ministry of Health. The document proposed freezing tobacco taxes and contained verbatim tobacco industry marketing slogans, including the claim that nicotine is as harmful as caffeine. Despite presenting it to officials to guide her policy, Costello repeatedly denied writing it and claimed she did not know who did. The documented pipeline of personnel and strategy shows that the very industry profiting from addiction has become the primary author of the laws regulating it. The policy demands eventually turned into hard currency. Minister Costello executed a massive tax cut, halving the excise tax on heated tobacco products, commonly known as HTPs, by 50%. Watch this counter. By slashing that tax, the government carved out a massive contingency benefit, worth between $216 million and $293 million. That is hundreds of millions of dollars draining out of the public health budget. And here is exactly where that money goes. Philip Morris holds a complete monopoly as the sole supplier of heated tobacco products in New Zealand. 100% of this taxpayer-funded tax cut flows directly to a single corporation. The minister authorized this multi-million-dollar transfer directly against the advice of both the Treasury and the Ministry of Health, who stated clearly that there is no good evidence HTTPs actually work as smoking cessation tools. This tax cut functions as a calculated 9-figure return on investment for the lobbying network Philip Morris spent years building. While Philip Morris secures hundreds of millions in tax breaks, the reality on the ground remains severe. Māori currently suffer a smoking rate nearly 3 times higher than the rest of the New Zealand population. Repealing the smoke-free laws systematically dismantled the protective infrastructure of Māori health, turning the potential for healing into a source of corporate revenue. The political messaging continues. Just days ahead of the New Zealand First political convention, Costello made a series of media appearances publicly pushing to review the excise structure yet again. You now have the full context required to translate that political rhetoric. When a minister with ties to the taxpayers' union suggests an excise review for tobacco products, you are listening to the exact language of a corporate lobbyist read aloud from the halls of Parliament. True Kaitiakanga, the active guardianship of the land and its people, requires looking past the smokescreen. It means rejecting the misinformation, demanding accountability from those in power, and refusing to let the health and future of Māori whānau be traded away for a corporate check.